Teachers of Reddit, what are some signs that a student is being abused or lives in a toxic environment? In high school, kids who don't ever seem to want to go home at the end of the day, who seem less happy act out before or after school holidays. Same for elementary, they come in early to help, they stay after dismissal to help you clean, and they don't move quickly if their car number is called. Edit, y'all, these are not hard and fast signs. Some of my very happy kiddos with homes that appear to be solid are like this because they enjoy hanging out with me. But when students appear to want as much time away from home as possible, my ears start to prick up. Second edit, at schools in the US, car riders are often given a tag to hang off their adult's rear view mirror. The tag either has their students' names or a number that is called out, and that is their number and thus assigned to go. I unironically just really enjoyed cleaning and tidying up the classroom. I remember I liked to in second grade because the teacher gave you a piece of candy afterwards. Many kids who are verbally abused will do the same to peers they think less of, or to younger kids. If a kid is calling someone horrible things, often things that kids should not say like swear words or violent threats, for a minor offense like being annoying, they learn that from someone at home. You can tell the difference between learning it from an adult and just repeating something they heard on TV because they will genuinely, really mean it, and you can hear it in their voice. Quoting something they heard on TV doesn't usually have a context the way that genuine rage does. Honestly, a kid who is just enraged all the time is a huge red flag for me. Especially if they're under like 10. I had one kid that other teachers had written off as a bad kid. I thought he was a sweet but angry kid. I worked out a system with him where he had freedom to express himself in class, but if he was getting too loud or wound up, I would calmly touch his shoulder and move on. It was a subtle reminder to be in control of his own emotions. He had a rough home life, his parents were addicts and out of the picture, his older brother regularly used him as a punching bag, his older sister was pregnant, and barely 15, and living with his strict nan and so many other things. It was no wonder the kid was angry. I recognized that and spent the time listening to him. By the time I left the school, it was a 3-month placement, had moved up a banding to a higher level class. They realized that he was actually pretty smart, had just never been given a chance. That was 11 years ago, and I think of Jay often. Edit, thank you kind strangers for your kind rewards. I had a bad kid Jay also. I asked some kids to draw me a little picture of something they liked on some note cards, and this boy drew a stripper on a pole with little dollar bills around her. Another kid drew Fetty Wap. This was a second grade class. Turned out the kids just had really rough home lives, like you describe. Mom is only 24 and working full time, then parties with guys her age and her off time sleeping on various friends' and families' couches with the kids in tow because that's what's available. They're really good kids, they just have the most ridiculous obstacles. It's heartbreaking that some kids have to go through things like that. They really just need stability and love. Jay was desperate to be loved. I really hope has continued to be the good kid I know he was. Band teacher here. A lot of times when teaching kids in beginning band how to play their instruments early on, you have to touch various body parts, hands of course, arms, hips and shoulders for getting them into proper posture alignment. I always ask before I touch anywhere, is it okay if I touch here? Almost all kids say yes. I've had 2 that have said no. One was a student with autism and did not want to be touched, and the other turns out was being abused at home. It's not a guarantee of course, but often a sign. Kudos for giving them body autonomy by asking first. This jolted an unexpected memory from high school. We had a gym teacher who would always help the kids jump when we did gymnastics exercises, and somehow he always seemed to misgrab when a girl was jumping. Butt, groin, you name it. With boys his hand placement was immaculate. But with the girls he always grabbed parts by accident. All the girls were talking about it, saying what a pervert he was. I don't think anyone ever reported him though. Edit, I did not expect this to blow up. So sorry so many of you experienced similar awful things. Hugs. I did gymnastics when I was younger, and I had one of those coaches. I wouldn't say she was a pervert as such, but she would always slap our butts and run her hands all along our bodies while spotting us. I'm aware it's for safety precautions, but a couple of us started to feel really uncomfortable by it. I finally hit my breaking point when we were planking. It wasn't what exercise exactly, but we had our backs and butts faced upwards, and she came along and slapped my butt and told me off for bad posture, which really caught me off guard. I ended up yelling at her, and from that lesson onwards she refused to even acknowledge my existence. Lol. In all honesty, it was worth it. BC, she didn't bother me ever again. I ended up quitting a couple months later after my parents realized I was miserable with her as my coach. I didn't tell them about her, so I quit. Turns out she got fired a week after I quit for an unrelated reason. Not sure if I should be upset because she was the coach of our whole country's gym team, but I'm just glad she stopped bothering me after that whole incident. I should add that in my 9 years of doing gymnastics as a kid, I have never had a teacher that slapped our asses and yelled at us so vigorously for messing up. She was racist at times too, but I won't go into that. I wouldn't say she was a pervert as such, she definitely was. You don't need to sexually harass someone to tell them about their bad form. Thanks to online school, I can just look and see. One sign is constant full blast music or screaming in the background, kids or adults fighting or yelling. The background kids fight the student trying to learn on camera. Edit, changed healing to music. My cousin had a kid in her class whose parents were screaming at one of the kid's siblings in the background back when classes first went online. The kid forgot to mute himself when he first logged in, and the teacher apparently looked very worried, even after the kid apologized and muted his camera. My cousin said it was very disturbing, and a lot of her classmates were shaken up by it. Apologizing for your ducked-up parents breaks my heart. Right? I hope that kid is okay. This whole thread is killing me, tbh. I had a terrible experience as a student who was abused at home. At one point I had a black eye every month or so. Once I had to do PE in shorts and I had a huge black spot on my inner thighs which spread from the genitalia almost to the knee. I always told people I fell from my bike. Broke crying out of nowhere regularly. My grades were awful and I had to repeat one entire year. I was a teenager and actually asked for help to the school counselor, which, after listening to me, said, "Since your younger sister is involved, we have to act and call the police. If you don't want, we can just pretend we didn't have this talk." I was scared, so nothing actually happened. She left me with a bunch of sort of propaganda pamphlets. She was into politics in my school town, asking me to give them to random people. Teachers kept on treating me like a rebellious teenager with behavioral problems, even though they made many talks about speaking up to the teacher if we had problems at home or we were being abused. This was Milan, Italy, 5 to 10 years ago. Now I can usually recognize anyone who had been beaten or abused at home when they were kids in a short conversation. I'm so sorry this happened to you. My partner's mom is a teaching assistant in a classroom. She said one of the most worrying things she hears is, "Can I tell you a secret?" A lot of the time it's very innocent, but it always sets off alarm bells first. We have told our children since a very young age, we don't have secrets, we have surprises. A birthday or holiday gift is something we don't tell the person for a short time, and it's something fun for us and them. A secret is something that someone would want you to never tell, and a good grown-up will never tell a kid to keep a secret from another grown-up. If grown-ups have a problem or something they need help with, they will tell a grown-up, not a child. So the first thing you are to do is tell mama and daddy as soon as you see us. If another child tells you a secret, you are to also tell us immediately, because the child might need a grown-up's help. My meal frequently gets tattled on after telling the kids to keep the extra cookie or candy a secret. Haha, that last line made me happy in this thread of sadness. You have good kiddos. One sign of physical abuse, including severe beatings, is when students dress to cover every inch of their bodies. It's especially noticeable during times of warmer weather when most students are wearing far less. These abused students have scars so searing that they can't sit back in a chair normally due to the pain from sores. Other telltale signs include occasional facial bruises or wounds to the lips where they've been punched. This, 100%. I taught middle school, and some of my female students especially wore giant sweatshirts and long pants, even in sweltering FL heat. Those students often wound up being able in abusive situations of some sort. Those signs particularly combine with hypersensitivity, avoidance of parents, and occasionally signs of disordered eating. As a teenage girl trying to regain control of my own body, I used to wear the biggest and baggiest sweatshirts to make myself look less attractive and to hopefully cover up my body. The Florida heat was nothing compared to how I felt about myself. Add in the anorexia so that I could have some semblance of control over my life, and I was a recipe for disaster. 90 pounds soaking wet who flinched as soon as someone started yelling or breaking out into a nervous sweat if a guy so much as looked at me.